This is TWiT.
You know what's coming soon to the United States? I think a TikTok ban, a real live, honest-to-goodness TikTok ban. The story, of course, a couple of days ago was that the federal agencies have 30 days to get TikTok off devices. Now, these are devices that are owned by the federal agencies and then used by employees. I think employees could still have it on their personal device, I would think. Chris Wray, who has been kind of virulently nasty about China and especially, he's one of the people who's saying COVID was released from the Wuhan labs, despite the fact that there's disagreement among the intelligence agencies. He's acting like, oh no, it's a Chinese. And now I think he's been going hard against TikTok, and now he might be getting his way because the House committee has passed the bill along. The Foreign Affairs Committee voted on Wednesday along party lines to give Joe Biden the power to ban TikTok in the U.S.
But when you say that, it's like in the U.S. ... on government devices, right?
No.
Ban. This is like ban, like
full on
for everybody,
for everyone. That's
no more
major.
TikTok corner for us.
No kidding.
The bill does not precisely specify, this according to Reuters, how the ban would work. Gives Biden power to ban any transactions with TikTok, which in turn could prevent anyone in the U.S. from accessing or downloading the app on their phones. It would effectively ban it because they would force the Android Play Store and the Apple Store to take it off the store, just as they did with Huawei, by the way. They've kind of basically put Huawei out of business in the U.S. by saying no company could do business with Huawei. They could do the similar thing to TikTok. You would still have it on your phone if you had it on your phone.
You could probably still sideload it, right? Like that's one way
possibly
that these things
you could use it on the web.
You could use it on the web, yeah, right. They're blocking website access. I wouldn't think.
And TikTok wouldn't have any way to make money.
A First Amendment case here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Well, I don't know. We banned Huawei. Cepheus.
But this is the user's own platform for speech.
Well, it seems to me, and I have to say, Mike Masnick at Tech Dirt used the phrase, you'll be happy to know, moral panic.
Thank you.
Carl Bodie, actually. This article,
Carl Bodie.
Yeah,
right, give Carl
it's in there.
Our growing TikTok moral panic still isn't addressing the actual problem. The problem really being, and honestly, I understand why a company or government agency would say ban TikTok. Just like, for instance, the military banned Strava, the running app, because it turned out a lot of military were using it to map their runs and inadvertently giving a map of the inside of the Pentagon to
You understand
Strava.
why they ban it for government users or for everybody?
For government.
Oh, government users.
There's I understand that, and I think that's certainly within their purview, and I guess you could make a case. But honestly, do they ban Facebook?
Well, and I think that's a point that Carl really makes in this article that is absolutely true, which is, okay, so we can look at TikTok and we can say, hey, you're doing all this stuff, you're collecting all this data, we don't know exactly what's happening behind the scenes to that data. Is that transferring over to the Chinese government, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people assume or think, that they have the details that point to that actually happening. But then we've got all of these other apps that are on our phones, Facebook, Instagram, they're all tracking our location. They're all doing stuff with our data. Why is it different over here versus over here? I mean, it really doesn't seem to solve the problem. If you have a problem with this kind of information, data brokers and everything having access to that information, then do something about that. Why is it so lucrative to trade in people's data? And maybe that's the problem.
You said another key phrase in there as far as TikTok. You said that we don't know what they're doing with that information once it goes back to China. Heck, we don't know what they're doing with the information on those 3 platforms you just mentioned that are here in the U.S. So why aren't we doubling down on those folks other than just grandstanding a couple months?
You're right, Ann. That's what Carl says.
Carl writes, yes, TikTok plays fast and loose with consumer data. So does nearly every other foreign and domestic app and service on your phone. From apps that track and monetize your every waking movement in granular detail to apps and services that casually traffic in your mental health specifics And that's before you get to the telecom industry, which has pioneered irresponsible collection and monetization of user info. All this data fed into a massive and intentionally confusing data broker market. Remember those two words, data broker, that regulators have been generally disinterested in seriously policing, lest U.S. companies, CASP, lose money.
Oh, no.
We don't want to pass a modern internet
too.
privacy law or be tough on data brokers, app makers, OEMs, or telecoms because rampant surveillance and data monetization is simply too lucrative. So in a way, this is hand-waving. It's saying, pay no attention to what's going on in the U.S. It's China.
Right.
China. Go
It's
get
political, political points.
Yet
sure.
another distraction.
And data brokers, Axiom has been around long before the internet. I've talked about this before, where I've freaked out students by showing how I can get the names and addresses of women 2 miles from me who have these characteristics, which you can't do otherwise. Google doesn't know all that, but Axiom does, and it's supported and used by magazine companies and media companies all over.
Well,
Data
and as
brokers
Carl points out, it's trivially easy for the Chinese, Iranian, or any other government intelligence agency to buy this data from the data brokers.
That's a really great point.
They don't need TikTok. It's all available if they want it. The other claimed problem, he says, the Chinese government will use TikTok to fill U.S. kids' heads with gibberish and propaganda. But not only, I love Carl. He's been on the show. We got to get him on again. Not only is there no evidence it's actually happening at scale, it's a rich concern coming from a country so inundated in authoritarian propaganda across AM radio, Fox, Sinclair, the internet, that residents increasingly engage in widespread domestic terrorism. It's coming from within the house. Mm-hmm. But it's really, I think, far too easy, and I think Chris Wray is an example of this, to just deflect blame by blaming China. There's also the FCC commissioner who's been calling for TikTok's ban, who is notoriously lax on regulating telecom, because he takes money from the telecom industry. So I think this is lip service only to privacy. It's politically expedient because blame China seems to be the popular thing right now.
Yeah. Right.
Even when we say this, people say, well, why are you giving aid and support to the enemy?
Well, I'm giving aid and support to Elon by being there.
Not me. I withdrew my aid and support to Elon. ACLU on Twitter, though, did tweet, this bill is a serious violation of our First Amendment rights. Congress must vote no on this vague, overbroad, and unconstitutional legislation. Somebody in the chat room has pointed out, and I think it's true, that yes, there's First Amendment rights, but as soon as it comes down to national security, look at what just happened in the Supreme Court. They decided to not review the Wikimedia's lawsuits against NSA's collection of data, blanket collection of data, saying national security. The NSA's defense wasn't, we're not doing it. We're not only targeting international people. They didn't say any of that. They just said, hey, national security. If we were to stop that, national security, think of the children. So I think that's the problem, is that, the ACLU could fight this. They could take it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court would say, no, national security.
And without any evidence, without any known evidence, without any actual discussion of what's happening. What is the problem with all of this is we don't talk about actual harm. We talk about fears. We talk about could-be's, but the evidence of harm is not here.
All right. I am going to be, because somebody has to argue this, and I think there are people, it's a legitimate point of view. There are a lot of people in our audience who say, no, wait a minute. A, it's just a social media app. What's the harm in banning it? B, it's pretty clear the Chinese government has access to anything TikTok has access to. C, we already know TikTok employees were using location information from TikTok to find out what journalists were meeting. They were trying to track down a leak. So they looked at where American journalists were on their TikTok app to see if they were meeting with any TikTok employees. So we already know they've breached that boundary. So why shouldn't we ban TikTok? I mean, this is pretty cletly a hazardous app. Yeah, there are other problems. I'll even say this. There are other problems. Yeah, we should someday. Let's take a look at Facebook and telecoms too. But right now we got this proximate problem with TikTok. What's wrong with banning
that? Doesn't answer the national security.
Right now, we have a problem with Facebook and Instagram and everyone else is tracking our own people, our own citizens, in trying to target stuff for us for their own profitable gain. No. So that's a right now.
Yeah. Well, okay. Why? So fine. We'll get to that. But right now
we'll get to that.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. This doesn't mean
get in line.
It's not a defense to say, well, everybody does it. That's not a defense.
Our own backyard. That's the stuff that I've always been bugged about with our government. Is we do so many things that are in. I'm going to piss some people off. We put our nose in a lot of different business elsewhere, but we really do a really craptastic job of taking care of our own backyard and the issues right here.
Yeah, but why should we let a foreign government have access to all that information?
But to your Mr. Devil's Advocate, your argument about the employees going after a couple of reporters, as a reporter, I shouldn't like that. But A, they got fired, and B, that doesn't.
They got fired when they got caught. They got fired when they got caught. Yeah, and right. What it demonstrated, you're right, it doesn't affect national security, but it demonstrated they have the ability and the will.
Someone had the ability
to do that.
Somebody did.
Yeah,
within TikTok. Now, let's say President Xi or his proxy goes to Mr. TikTok and says, hey, I'd like that same information, please.
I noticed you did that.
Well, here's the other
they can't say no to him.
Side of this coin, Leo, Mr. Devil's Advocate, is that we're setting a precedent here, Devil, to be used by every other government.
I appreciate you saying that over and over so that nobody thinks I actually espouse this point of view.
I know, exactly.
But you know what? I should probably recuse myself because my son makes a living on TikTok.
Yeah,
he's an example,
and
this is what some people say is, but think of all the creators who use TikTok legitimately.
He's hurt.
Somebody like my boy who has made a very good living. He's now got a cookbook. He's talking about a TV show. He was in Miami making Cubano sandwiches with Guy Fieri, all because of TikTok.
Awesome. Yep, yeah, but don't worry. YouTube Shorts just crossed 50 billion daily views.
Please.
So he could just go over
on
to
YouTube. He's on Insta. It's TikTok that really drove his success, 2.1 million followers. And the other thing, too. He actually, he was very smart. We had this conversation and we went to lunch. It was like a year and a half ago. And he said, Dad, I got about 30,000 followers on TikTok doing these cooking things. What do you think? I said, I think you should go all in. And push it. And he studied the algorithm. He figured out what people wanted. He looked at comments. He really got involved, carefully tailored something to TikTok, and it was a huge success. He was able to do that.
He did it really well.
And he's created a career around it.
And it's given him a living.
Yeah,
so that's
good on.
So now, I'm sorry. I took off my devil's advocate hat. Where'd I put it? So, but I actually asked him. I said, are you worried about TikTok being banned? He said, no, I got the Instagram now. That I make more money and get more engagement on Instagram. So which does not mean that he used TikTok to get to the next level. That was his entree.
That's the whole part of being a content creator, though, sir. It's being able to not necessarily depend on one particular product. You sort of market yourself everywhere because stuff goes away, especially when there's companies like Google involved and all of a sudden they kill something off. You still want to be able to have
my point exactly. That's why we should ban TikTok because there's other avenues. It's not like we're going to lose anything. So why should we let the Chinese spy on our people? It's not like it's the only way that people can create and put stuff out. Let's ban the problem.
Montessori, or whatever his name is, Adam Mosseri at Instagram. Why should we allow him to dig into the analytics of us and
I'll get to that.
Assume that
we're
going
to legislate that later.
Reels.
We're going to get to that.
We're on Instagram,
the committee's
photography
looking at it.
platform, but we feel that you all really want to see more videos, and we noticed that you all are not watching these videos. So we're going to dial it back just a little bit. So who's watching him?
A Chinese company should have the same rights and privileges as a U.S. company?
Well, here's the issue, Mr. Senator Devil, is that other countries have said the same thing about us. So,
by the way, they're right.
Germany, EU, Canada, Brazil have all tried to pass laws saying that America does horrible things with data. That number one, at least data should be stored locally, though, of course, that's so the government can get hold of it in that country. Or number two, that we shouldn't trust America at all and we should ban American apps.
That's fine.
So we're setting a precedent here around China.
Let them try that
us.
because we make the gosh darn best apps in the whole wide world, and let them try it. Just like France tried and Spain tried to ban Google, let them try it because they'll come crawling back to us because we make the best damn apps in the world.
Boy, you really do a great devil's advocate.
Yeah,
I'm fired up right now.
See? Yeah, no, see? It's a good argument.
Great devil's advocate, yeah.
This episode of Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. 1/3 of information security jobs require a cybersecurity certification. While organizations are hungry for cybersecurity talent, the cyber skills gap grows daily. The average salary for cybersecurity specialists is $116,000. ACI Learning's programs can get you certified. To maintain your competitive edge across audit, IT, and cybersecurity readiness, visit go.acilearning.com/twit.